Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. WeatherBrains episode number 702. This is the pre-show for Monday, July 1st, 2019. So getting these big pop-ups on my screen telling me that Hangouts on the Air are going away August 1st. So this is the platform we've been using for a long time. I think for, 7 years now? And, Google, I guess it's their business. They can do whatever they want to, but they start these services and then they just yank them all of a sudden. They've had a long history of this. Google Wave, Google Reader. What else has gone away that Google has offered? Anyway, they probably pulled this off YouTube that I'm griping. But anyway, so we have a 1 month to figure out a new platform. So some of the tech weenies will help us to do that, I'm sure. I use a piece of software called Wirecast, and we might be able to do something creative with Skype and video and then stream it to the world using Wirecast. And that's probably what we're going to do. Whenever I do a Facebook Live from this room in the TV station or the office at my house, I use Wirecast, and I do a television segment on the morning show every morning from my house using Wirecast, and it's a very nice piece of software. So we'll probably just do that and maybe go back to Skype. I don't know. We used Skype for years when the show started because we were an audio show back then, and then when we upgraded to video, we went to Google Hangouts over the air because it switches automatically. It streams it live to YouTube. It was exactly what we needed. But anyway, fair warning, podcasters, if anybody else does this video stuff like we do, Hangouts is going away 1 month from today. So that'll give us a month to figure it out. So we've got a skinny show tonight, but I bet you it's going to be a good show. Bill Murray out. Nate is out. Troy Kimmel is out. Kim Cloko McLean is out. I think Aubrey is out. The bottom line is, I do believe. Let me just rethink this. These are the people that should be on this show tonight. I'll be here, and Dr. John will be here, and Kevin Selly will be here. And in theory, Kevin had some internet connectivity issues at his place last week at his TV station. Hopefully that has been resolved. So in a minute, I'll bring on our guests, and I think we're going to talk. I should be looking at my notes, but Aubrey is here. Yes.
Hi, James.
Yes. I had this fear that I was going to be by myself, and I'm not. I get nervous when I'm by myself.
Well, I wanted to cut into The Bachelorette again tonight, but
no, we got to save this for the show. This is anytime we have I interrupted the Bachelorette segment, we got to do it in the audio show. But I feel for you. In fact, I actually know the Bachelorette.
Oh, you do?
And she is a supporter of what we do. And so I need to get her to cut you a video.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I would love to share that.
I could get Hannah to cut a video that you could show to your haters and trolls. Because, we had the situation in Ohio one night, and then we had your situation. So, yeah, I'm going to work on that. There's some things that she can't do because obviously the show's still running, but for something like that, yeah, this would work. So she is from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and as you know, they had a horrible, horrible tornado there in 2011. And of course, she was a child at the time, but she has very vivid memories and understands the importance of what we do. So I will make that happen.
That's awesome. That would be amazing.
Yeah, we're going to hold that discussion until 30 after the hour. I guess maybe when I was a kid, I was 23, 24, And it almost thrilled me to know the guy on the other channel would have to cut off some big time TV program. I'd go, he. Now I have compassion for everybody. I don't care who they are, where they work, if they're competitors, not competitors. We are all in this together. I just have compassion for them. So
I had no idea. Yeah. I had no idea whatsoever.
Yeah, and normally I don't either. But I have learned to try to get an idea that if we've got something big going on, I need to know about it because I have to brace myself. All right, let's see. John is not getting an invite, so we are going to. There's a little internal link that I can send to him by email, so I'm going to do that right now.
Hi, Kevin.
Hey.
Oh, Kev is here.
How's everybody?
Got some internet connectivity this evening?
I wish I could tell you the internet story.
And that's the show title, but we can't use it because it's before the show started. So,
and I'll get fired.
No, look. I'll shoot straight with you. Here's what I did. I built my own network here. My network is not tied into any corporate network. It's not tied into anything. It is separate because it's a long story. Like yours is a long story, but I had to have.
So you have a separate pipe coming in the building?
Yes.
Wow. And you pay for this?
No, the company pays for it.
Well, my company barely pays for the one that's here. So
the problem is there's a lot of packet shaping. And listen, I understand it. I understand the corporate situation. There's so much bandwidth and you got so many people and you have to prioritize the bandwidth. But the problem is for what we do in weather, a lot of times we'll be taking live streams from YouTube or Facebook and the corporate algorithm thinks that I'm watching cat videos. So it just restricts my bandwidth. The bandwidth goes to nothing. Thinking I'm watching cat videos on YouTube where I've got a tornado down on YouTube and I got to put this on television. And so it just, I fought it and I fought it and I fought it. And I just, let's just do a separate network for weather only, different pipe, different routers. Let me build it and everybody will be happy. So everybody's happy. Kevin, are you happy?
No, that would never happen here. We have just completed. I found a solution to probably it's been going on for maybe 5 months, but it just got really worse in the last 2.5 months where the clicker literally would not work. I literally walked off set in the middle of weather to go and switch graphics manually 2 to 3 times a week or more.
Wow.
Ooh.
It was stunning. It was stunningly bad. Wow.
That's
the clicker.
Good.
It's just the clicker. It's a click. It's a space bar. Yeah, it was a disaster. People started writing. There were people were threatening to do what do you call them? GoFundMe's to buy me a new clicker.
Oh,
it was that bad. It was that
I'm
bad.
So sorry. Oh.
Hey, Kevin, did you ever drop the clicker during a show?
I don't think that I have. There was a woman named Leslie Pallotta when I was in Richmond who used to come in on she would do like Saturday morning or something. They hired her, and there was a fairly famous clip of her. She used to stand right in the middle of the shot as it came up, come out of the commercial. And she was standing there with her hands folded, and there was a tiny little clicker. And there was one day, just at the very beginning of coming out of black, she dropped it and uttered a 4-letter word and bent down and picked it up and rolled right on.
Yeah.
Did you drop one? You must have dropped it to bring that up.
Yes, I did. And yeah. I probably was getting a little too excited about the weather, and I was dancing around, and I dropped it right in front of the camera, and I did the same thing. I just scooped it up, and off we went.
Without the 4-letter word, I'm guessing.
Without the 4-letter word.
Yep.
Hey, I think everybody's here. It worked. So let's see here. Chris, can you hear us okay?
Yes, sir.
Give us a countdown. Give us a talk to us for a minute.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Perfect. Michael, can you hear us okay?
I can. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear. This is too good. We've got our guest on. It's not the bottom of the hour yet. You guys sound great. You look great. Wow. John has no helium.
No helium tonight.
No. Sounds. Wow. Okay. Well, wow. With 30 seconds to spare, we're ready to go here. So we have to wait until 30 after the hour. Just for y'all's information, we're on local television here on cable TV in my market for the northern half of Alabama, so that they hit the show at 30 after. And you know what? Speaking of that,
have you made a decision here on the video?
No. In fact, I got a note that says YouTube, or I'm sorry, Hangouts over the Air is going away August 1st.
Oh, that seems.
I'm about to say they have really cut this thing. I mean, it just popped up tonight. And welcome to our television viewers.
So you haven't decided what we're doing then?
Well, I think about the only logical thing I can figure is to use Skype. It's fairly universal, and I think you can get 10 people on Skype at the same time. We need to research that and use a program that I have licensed. I mean, I own it, called Wirecast, which is a fairly robust video software platform, but you can stream it on any service. So we could stream it on YouTube or Facebook or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's kind of the idea here. So,
or we could just stop. No,
we could just quit and say, let's quit while we're ahead. You know, we've done 702 episodes.
Yeah, I was thinking, listening to the 700, I thought, just as a ray of hope, we should say, you know what, we're going to quit at 1,000, just so we have something to look forward to.
All right, let's get this sucker going here. All right, let me find everything here. Goodness gracious. So hang on here.
I don't think I've ever heard so much downtime on this program before.
No, this I'm off tonight. I typically have a routine. I somehow got out of that. All right, here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's WeatherBrains episode number 702, the weekly show all about weather. This is for July 1st, 2019. We are officially into the second month of meteorological summer, which means that we have a lot of folks out on vacation. We know that Nate and Bill and Troy, they are out tonight. Kim is just coming back from vacation. She is out tonight. But look who's back, Kevin Selly, who has been he tried to work his 1200 baud modem last week, and it didn't quite work.
Yeah, all the Wi-Fi hotspots in the building were down, so I really wanted to come. So I haven't listened to it yet. I bet it was a good show though with the author. Yeah, but that was really interesting.
Yeah, we've had some
getting that book.
Very good shows.
Speaking of books, James, wait, no, your book. I have missed a lot of episodes lately, but your book is out. Did we know this?
It's out?
See, even Aubrey didn't know. Okay, so I don't feel so bad. It was just all of a sudden, sometime last week, I hear, James Spann's book, and I was like, yeah, he's been talking about that since like episode 2, and one day it will come out, and then boom, he's at the Birmingham Barons game selling books. When last night or over the weekend?
Yeah, they have made it available Saturday, and we decided to do it to start here where I am at that venue because there's big crowds on Saturday night, and I don't want to be some goober hawking books on the show. Okay, I mean,
well, it's a pretty big deal. Congratulations! We just
Hmm.
didn't know that you had gotten that far, so congratulations. I'll warn people if there's I downloaded it because there's a downloadable version. And it's not easy because it's not like Amazon Kindle. You got to go jump through a couple of hoops, but I'm sure it's worth it. I'm 2 or 3 chapters in now, so congratulations.
Well, we'll talk about it some other time. I just needed to chronicle some stuff. I needed to write some stuff down.
Okay.
I have been through a lot, and we all have, really. And I just felt like I needed to write some stuff down. So
Well,
anyway,
if you haven't promoted it, now is the time, please.
all right, spanbook.com. There you go. We'll talk about it later.
I think it's jamesspanbook.com, isn't it?
Yeah, they both point to the same thing. Spanbook, jamesspanbook.com.
And what's it called?
Weathering Life. I feel like I'm being interviewed here. What is this?
You are
We
being
need to do
interviewed.
this. Yes.
Look, I've got to get this in before my Wi-Fi goes out again. And
So-
is there going to
so-
Is there going to be an audio version? Because there's no evidence of that.
Yes, we start in fact, my first session is Friday in the
Oh.
studio. I'm reading it. So
Nice.
it's going to take a while, but it'll be on audible.com, and the book will be on Amazon probably in about 4 to 5 months. But we're going to start just with the current site and some book signings, and we'll go from there. I know nothing about publishing. I have learned a lot. So anyway, if you're interested to know what makes me tick or not tick, or some of the historic weather events I've worked, spanbook.com. But Aubrey, I got to get to you, because a week ago, I am so sorry. I am so sorry what happened to you.
Do not apologize.
But tell everybody what happened. You had to cut off an ABC program. And by the way, that program is on right now, okay?
Yeah.
This is the program that Aubrey had to cut off, all right?
What had happened is I was watching storms moving into West Virginia, and all of a sudden I was kind of captivated by this rotation, and honestly, it made me freeze for a second. I think I froze for a good solid 60 seconds looking at the rotation, because I think I was kind of in awe of what I saw in the area that I saw it in across the Allegheny front. And once I finally clicked back into reality, I started putting my mic on and calling the control room saying, we may have a tornado warning. And not less than a minute later, bam, we had a tornado warning in a very unpopulated area of West Virginia. And these were very slow moving storms. And I was on air for pretty much an hour straight. And it turns out I was cutting into some programming which happened to be The Bachelorette, which I had no idea until afterwards. Once I finally got off the air, I was breathing, panting, and getting some water, and I knew my phone was blowing up, so I looked at my messages, and I just see people going, messages going, you want me to take care of this? You want me to take care of them? You want me to say this? I'll do it. I'll post that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I finally realized what I had actually cut into. And I said, and a 4-letter word came out then. And then I started patrolling the social and explaining.
How bad was it?
Not that bad. I think our West Virginia viewers were so wonderful, and they were so grateful to know that we were there with them throughout this whole entire tornado warning in an area that rarely gets tornado warnings. One of our counties, Pendleton County, which also had flash flooding over the weekend, this is only the second time they've had a tornado warning and I was talking to the National Weather Service, about 20 to maybe 25 years. So we're talking areas that don't even see tornado warnings, let alone often get tornadoes. They do, but just not very often. So to have someone kind of walk through the process with them and really be on air with them throughout this. And it was just unfortunate that these were slow moving storms and they weren't moving very fast, and it is what it is. And I did my job and I did what I needed to do, and I would do it again because the rotation was quite strong for that area. We had some pretty good radar and velocity data for that area, considering the radar beam was hitting at anywhere from 7,000 to 9,000 feet.
Whoa.
Away from the radar site. I think we're all kind of shocked it really did not produce, but this was the same storm that did produce the tornado in Charleston and left a trail of damage across eastern West Virginia. So it had a history of the tornadoes. So we did have some complaints and some yelling. No one dared to call. They all hid behind their computer. But the overwhelmingly positive comments way outweighed the negative ones. But there were numerous negative ones.
Well, you did the right thing.
Absolutely.
And,
Oh yeah.
you know, I try to be cognizant of what's on television on a severe weather day, and understand you really weren't expecting that. But on the days where I know that I might have to go on the air, I try and do some preemptive stuff, like in the morning, say, this is how you can watch these programs on your phone, your tablet, your computer, any doodad that you have. But sometimes you're right. It just happens and you're not really expecting it. And I don't watch television, which funny, all of us that work in television, I think it's true. We don't watch television. I mean, I know what's on Monday night because I sit here in my little closet and the monitor's right in front of me and I know it's The Bachelorette. Beyond that, I could not tell you what's on our TV station Tuesday through Sunday. I don't know. So anyway, but but Aubrey, I'm glad you survived that. It sounds like it wasn't too bad.
And I would never apologize for doing what I did, because we did what was necessary to keep people safe and to give them the information that they needed in a very scary time.
Yep. So, Dr. John, have you ever received any criticism for interrupting a program?
Oh, yeah. I was actually sharing this with Aubrey last week. It was a Sunday afternoon, and I broke in the NBC programming, which was covering PGA golf tournament. And guess who was leading that tournament when I broke in?
Tiger Woods?
Tiger Woods. 4th round of the tournament, and he was leading, and I broke in, and I did get some rather interesting and vociferous email.
It just happens to us all.
Yes,
Kevin, you never get hate mail out there because your internet doesn't work. You can't eat, and you're not on Facebook.
We get some. The people generally will call first here, and the newsroom folks generally intercept most of that, and they're pretty good about it. There have been 1 or 2 times where I have gone on TV afterwards and say, "Look, this is my decision. Please don't call the newsroom and give them a bad time." But I mean, all of us who have to go through this know that. Yes, there are a few loudmouths, but in the days after something like that, somebody sees you at the mall or wherever it is, and they're just generally pretty universally happy and thankful and mad at the people that complain, and that's always nice to hear. The NASCAR people are the worst. If you interrupt NASCAR, they're just really angry. And it's tough on a watch day because there's nowhere to put a bug or a crawl because the whole thing is up and down and left and right, all the NASCAR logos and stats and things, and they get pretty grumpy about that. But as we all know, we move on.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, we write a book like James Van.
Exactly. No, I have a whole chapter on trolls, haters, and know-it-alls.
Good.
Oh, I got to read that.
But one of my secrets, I have not answered my phone since April 8th, 1998. This is a true story. I don't know what my phone number is here. I don't know where my phone physically is located, and I don't know how to check voicemail. It is very freeing. I mean, you have to manage your time, and everybody has 24 hours in a day. And we talk about this a lot. It's the great equalizer. Everybody on this show, I don't care who you are, we have 24 hours in a day. You can't buy a microsecond. And what you do with that determines who you are. And you just have to put a priority on things, and some things you cut out. And for me, I have cut out that telephone. So there you go. So I don't know, Dr. John or Aubrey, who's going to introduce our guest tonight, or do I need to do that? But normally Bill does this, and he's out at the 50-cent beer night at Hooters tonight. So,
sure, James,
Chris, you've been on the show before.
Oh yes, I have.
I mean, like several times, I think. Right? What I'm saying, this is not your first time. You're an old pro here, so I think everybody knows you. And thanks for coming on, Chris. And what do you need to play? You got ChaserCon 2019 coming up?
That's coming up this year. We had our initial one last fall in October, and this year we recalibrated and got a little bit bigger room, expecting a bigger crowd at the Science Museum of Virginia in Richmond again, and we put together a pretty good speaker list, some of which you may recognize a few of the names. Dr. John is going to be speaking for us.
Woo! Dr.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
So, and as part of our planning committee, I've added Aubrey this year, so she's been helping us plan the event.
You know it's going to work now.
Exactly.
I don't know how I ended up on that planning committee, but it's been fun.
You were drafted. So.
I was drafted.
But also, we have speakers talking about, we have Mike Monefusco from the Wakefield office of the National Weather Service and John Boyer, who's the staff meteorologist for the Richmond newspaper, are going to talk about the tornadoes last year from Florence that happened in September of 2018. Howard Bernstein from WUSA in Washington, D.C. will be on to talk about severe weather up there, including probably the La Plata tornado back in 2002, I'm sorry.
Wow.
We'll have Brad Panovich speaking about severe weather in Carolina. And then Jamie Morrow from the Raleigh office down there will talk from the National Weather Service perspective on eastern North Carolina severe weather. And then we'll probably wrap it up with Dr. Bill Hark, who's a well-known storm chaser, both here in Virginia and out on the plains, to talk about storm chase photography. And so all that will be, October 26th, the last Saturday of the month, at the Science Museum of Virginia, and tickets are on sale now.
I think this is great. Every part of the country has unique microclimates and issues we deal with, and I love the idea of having events like this to discuss the specifics that you deal with in the Middle Atlantic Coast region, because it's not the same as Oklahoma City or Birmingham or Denver or Chicago. And the knowledge that can be exchanged at these functions are just fantastic. So this is year 2, right? The second year?
Yes, this is year 2. And just a little bit of a plug to expand on what you were talking about there. We have 3 tenets. The first one is basically to promote severe weather awareness here in the Mid-Atlantic, because there's a lot happens that most people don't realize or don't pay attention to because they're not used to it around this area. Secondly, we're looking to build relationships between all the parties involved, the observers out in the field, spotters and chasers, the media outlets, National Weather Service, and this year we're especially working hard to bring the emergency management community into play. I know the Virginia Department of Emergency Management is going to have a table there in the room, so that we'll have them as a good networking opportunity to bring the community together. And then we basically just want to trade stories. How do we know that the severe weather is coming? How do we detect it? How do we forecast it in this operationally oriented forum? So that's the reason we're doing it, because as you said, James, here in the Mid-Atlantic, it's a little different than other places.
Awesome. We'll talk more about the Mid-Atlantic ChaserCon 2019 in just a bit. But Dr. John, let's bring in our guest. We're going to have a fun show tonight.
Oh, yeah. We have a great guest along with Chris tonight. He's Mike Eckert. Mike and I go back a long way, actually, through the NWA. And so, Mike, I want to welcome you on the show. It's been a while since you and I have been able to talk.
I know. It's been several years. I think it was back at Birmingham, probably, for the NWA meetings when I last saw you, either that or maybe Norfolk.
Yeah. And you and I collaborated often on putting together synoptic summaries, I guess you would say, following some of the more major weather events. We put those on the NWA website. That was a lot of fun to do with that. Yeah,
that was a lot. We did that for like 2 or 3 years, big events, a lot of impact to people. And, we wrote about the hows and the whys and, what went on with these different events. So it was pretty nice.
Yeah, those were well received. It's too bad you and I couldn't get paid to do that, because that was a fair amount of time invested in that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. A lot of other people were involved in that too, because if we had some like a severe weather outbreak, we tapped into somebody from SPC like Greg Carbon, or different things. Winter weather, we tapped into Wes Junker. He helped us out with some of that stuff. So it was a lot of fun. Yep,
it was. Well, Mike, you're at the FAA Command Center. So why don't you tell us how long you've been there? And I'm really intrigued. How did you get there?
Well, like most meteorologists, at least for me, it was one weather event. My dad was in the Air Force. We were transferred to Tinker Air Force Base back in the 70s. And they put us in a mobile home for a few weeks. First thunderstorm produced baseball-sized hail. And I was just, enthralled and looking out the window. And the next day I went to the base library and picked up a couple of books on tornadoes of the U.S. and hailstorms of the U.S. by Snowden. Read them from cover to cover. I probably read them a dozen times. And went to the University of Oklahoma. I got my degree there. And then right out of college, I started in Oklahoma City in radio and television, Channel 13 in Oklahoma City and WKY Radio. Did that for a couple of years. And then after that, I went to the Weather Service, Toledo, and then I was in Cleveland as the warning preparedness meteorologist. And that's the precursor to the WCM that we have now in all the offices.
Okay.
And then after the Shadyside flood back in the early 90s in Southeast Ohio, I kind of got the bug for heavy rain and convective rains. And I got a position with the, it was called the Meteorological Operations Division in Washington, D.C., which now it's actually the Weather Prediction Center, WPC. So it's gone through a few name changes. I was a forecaster there, and then I was a lead forecaster there. I spent 20 years there doing convective rainfall forecasting, heavy snow forecasting, and a lead forecaster overseeing the operations. And then this opportunity came up about 7 or 8 years ago, and I was looking for something different and new, and something new, challenging. And there were 2 of us that were selected for this position: Brandon Smith, he was in the New York office, and myself. And we came into the command center, and there has been no meteorologist here between 1995 and 2012.
Wow.
They didn't have any meteorologists in the command center providing weather information to the FAA. They were basically med techs, and they were just kind of passing on information back and forth, TAF information, things like that. So we came in, and we were basically handed a blank sheet of paper and said, okay, let's go ahead and develop this program. So we've been developing it, and we're just providing weather information, and it goes on from early in the morning. We start at 4 in the morning, goes to about 10 o'clock at night every day, and just providing the people here with weather information so they can keep the airplanes flying, but keep them flying in a safe manner and keep them flying at a high efficiency.
I find that absolutely astounding that even after the accident at JFK, and then the Dallas-Fort Worth airline accident, and then the one that happened in Kenner, Louisiana, and there were still no meteorologists at the FAA command center. I just find that astounding.
How is that possible?
How is that possible?
I don't know what the background is on what happened back in the mid-90s. The Weather Service was there in the early 90s to the mid-90s, and then for some reason, Weather Service and the FAA parted ways for the command center. So it was almost 20 years before they brought meteorologists back. But the center Weather Service units, there's about 20, 21 of those across the country, the smaller Weather Service units, they've had meteorologists with the Weather Service for a very long time, and they still also have them. So it's just the command center that didn't have meteorologists.
So what's the flow of information then? And you said you started with 2 people. Is it more now, or?
Yeah, we started out with 2 people, and then we got the program up and running. We added 2 more a couple of years after that, and now we have 5 meteorologists, and we have 1 supervisor. We run 2 shifts a day. We start out about 4 in the morning, and the day shift runs from about 4 to 1, and then the evening shift's about noon to 9. And the day shift is basically you're setting the table for the day for the whole United States on what's going to happen with the weather. So we're looking at models. We're working with the Center Weather Service Unit meteorologists. We're actually based, the mothership is actually the Aviation Weather Center, which is out in Kansas City, Missouri. So we're part of AWC. Mm-hmm. So working with them and trying to set the weather picture of the day, because the better we can plan things out, the more correct we can be, the more efficient and the safer all these airplanes are going to be able to move around the country. I mean, we've got tens of thousands of aircraft at any one time moving across the country, and there's a lot of airplane to control there.
So is it mostly a couple of hours out, or is it real-time operations as well?
It can range from 5 minutes from now. For example, this evening, I just got off shift, and I'm watching the radar over Denver and Dallas, and we're seeing outflow boundaries kind of bounce around both of those areas. I talked to the CWSU meteorologist and got their input on everything, and we agreed on everything. And then he briefed the CWSUs out there, briefed the tower out in like Denver, and then I would talk to the command center out here, and then they would go ahead and get together, and we trying to get everyone on the same page. We're not going to be right 100% of the time, but as long as we're consistent across the board, that really helps out in what we're doing. There's 2 areas that we're working with. We have one area, it's called the terminal area. So we have a group of people And all they focus on are the 29 to 30 major terminals across the United States, places like the New York City airports, Washington airports, Miami, Atlanta, Denver, Texas, or Dallas and Houston, and out west, San Francisco, Seattle, LA, Chicago also. So the big airports, they focus on those airports, and that's all they look at is the actual airport operations. And then the other section we have is what's called en route. And the en route people are looking at the aircraft once they reach cruising altitude, and they're taking them and putting them on, we call it basically, they're just highways in the sky. And it helps them, they put them on certain tracks, and then the pilots stay on those tracks. But if we have thunderstorms in a certain area, they've got to do what's called a reroute. They've got to move a route from one place to another. It's almost like you're driving down the road, and all of a sudden there's a construction zone, and then you get off the exit, you go around it, and then you get back on again. So it's pretty much, the same thing as when you're driving the car. But the one thing that you can't do in the airplane is you can't pull over to the side of the road. You got to keep moving the whole time.
So go through your day? You walk in, and what happens?
Okay, so I walk in the morning, and I sit down, and I pull up the TAFs for the top 30 airports, and I look at all the TAFs, look at the weather that's going on right now, and then I take those TAFs. I don't give them the full TAF. What I do is I'm looking out about the next 8 hours, because that's what I need for planning, about the next 8 hours. So I'll kind of trim it down a little bit. And we'll add some, if we see something like, maybe a TAF doesn't have thunderstorms in, and we're looking and we're saying, well, maybe there's going to be some thunderstorms after like 12 o'clock or something like that. So we might add some comments in and things like that. So the first thing we do is we get this TAF sheet ready. It's always got to be one sheet. We pass this TAF sheet out to everyone on the floor that needs it. After that, we start working on what's called the traffic flow management convective forecast. So the TAF sheet is for the terminals. The TCF is actually for the en route traffic. So that's our thunderstorm forecast. The TCF and the TAF updates are done done every 2 hours, 24/7 throughout the day. So those are our regular updated products. It's the TAF update every 2 hours, the TCF update every 2 hours for thunderstorms. And again, the thunderstorms are for the en route traffic. And it helps, them direct the traffic. Do they need to, let's say like this evening, we had thunderstorms east of Denver. So they were taking traffic further south into Texas. We also had a cluster of thunderstorms up in the Iowa, Nebraska, Minnesota area. So they were taking the traffic up further north through the Great Lakes. And then there was a little gap in there trying to fit the traffic in there. So we do that. The next thing we do have is a second shift that comes in a little bit later. It's called the Purdy shift, which is basically a next day planning shift. And that's one thing that when we got here, they were just focusing on what's going to happen today. They weren't thinking about tomorrow and trying to get their resources or people in position to handle what we think is going to happen tomorrow. Because today might be a really easy day. Tomorrow might be a horrible day in the national airspace, because we might have, thunderstorms in the wrong place. Like, today was a pretty good day. We had some thunderstorms out over the plains into the upper Midwest, northern plains area, some popcorn, developing thunderstorms over the south central U.S. Tomorrow looks like we're going to have probably more thunderstorms over the northeastern U.S. affecting New York, Chicago, and stuff like that. So the New York airspace is really the most congested airspace in the country, and that is really, really delicate when it comes to thunderstorms. So we're doing this every 2 hours. And we're watching things and we're keeping up with things. We see anything that's terminal related, we'll go and we'll talk to the people watching the terminals. If it's en route, we go over and we talk to the en route people. We're constantly coordinating with the CWSUs during the day. Again, we're trying to keep everyone on the same page so it's a consistent message. We know it's not going to be perfect. I mean, thunderstorms, especially pop-up afternoon thunderstorms, across the United States it's something that's very, very difficult to forecast. But if we can keep people focused on the really big things and be consistent with the really big thunderstorms, that really helps out.
So on a given weekday, what is the busiest hour or time of the day, and how many planes are in the air at that time?
I would say it's probably, well, it depends on the airport because you've got the East Coast, you've got the red eyes arriving in the morning on the East Coast, and the West Coast is still asleep. And then by mid to late morning, you've got airplanes that have left the East Coast and are arriving on the West Coast, and it kind of shuffles back and forth through the day. But just about any time after about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern time and then till about 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening, you're looking at anywhere from 5 to 6,000 commercial jets in the air across the United States. That doesn't include the small Cessnas, the VFR pilots that are not even filing a flight plan, and that probably doubles the number of aircraft that are up there any given day.
Mm. And so you've talked a lot about thunderstorms. What are the differences from thunderstorm season to the middle of winter?
The middle of winter, well, let's see. In the thunderstorm season, very busy all day long with the thunderstorms. And we get into the late fall, the winter, and the spring season, the en route part of the forecast is actually quite easy because we just don't have the high topped precipitation. We don't have thunderstorms that can interrupt any of these routes across the United States. So the en route time that really goes down. The workload for the en route goes way down during the wintertime. On the other hand, the terminal side actually goes up a little bit in the wintertime. Although we don't get thunderstorms, we've got icing issues. So we can't have aircraft that are too many aircraft around an airport in a holding position, because if you're holding and you got precip in the wintertime, you're probably going to have some icing, and you don't want ice building up on an aircraft. So you've got icing, you've got different types of precip. So you've got liquid precip, you got frozen precip, you got big winter storms. One thing that's interesting between summer and winter is that in the summertime, the airlines will continue to push and try and fly, even though we know we're going to have a lot of thunderstorms. And that's because they know that their passengers can drive from their house to the airport, even though it's going to be raining and scattered thunderstorms. They're going to get to that airport because they're going to want to get on their vacation. In the wintertime, when we have big winter storms, we know that, and they know that the trying to get from your home to the airport is much more difficult in the wintertime, especially if you have a big winter storm. So the airports or the airlines will tend to cancel a lot more flights in the wintertime when you have major winter storms, major blizzards. And that is two things. Number one, the passengers have a hard time getting there. But number two, if they cancel, their airplanes aren't stuck. Let's say it's Chicago. If they have a winter storm going into Chicago and they keep flying in there, at some point that airport's going to get shut down. They're not going to be able to clear the runways. They're going to have all these airplanes stuck there with passengers there. So it's a big mess. These big storms now in the winter, they will tend to cancel all the flights into that area. Their airplanes aren't there. They don't have to dig them out after the storm. They don't have stranded passengers there. So it's really all around. It's a better thing, for the flying public and for the airlines. They still lose money, but they probably don't lose as much money as they would if they got everyone stuck there.
Right. Hey, Michael, this is Chris.
Yeah.
Got a question for you. Switch back to summer weather with thunderstorms. You mentioned that if they see storms, they'll route aircraft around them. How much training do the controllers get on radar and being able to interpret it? And then what radar sources are they using?
They actually have all the radar information that the National Weather Service has, and it's actually on their screen as a background. So they can look at the aircraft, where they're going. They see all the thunderstorms. They have the lightning data on there. They have the tops of the thunderstorms on there, so they can see what elevation they're flying at. So they have all that information. These truck controllers are really, really keen people. They know their stuff. They're extremely intelligent. They know the questions to ask, and you have to be really straightforward with them. You're not going to be able to just kind of BS your way through something. You have to be straightforward with them. If you don't know, you tell them you don't know, and then you say, I'll be right back. I'm going to go do some research on this and get the information, and then come back and give them the information.
Right. Thanks.
Yep.
Mike, I'm curious, your choice for the worst airport weather. many of us have flown around the country, had experiences with all kinds of weather, flying in and out of airports. I have my own favorites, but I'd like to hear what yours might be in terms of the most challenging from a weather perspective. And I know that could be seasonally dependent as well.
Right. Well, if you're looking at thunderstorms, the Golden Triangle area, which is basically if you drew a line from Chicago to Atlanta to New York back to Chicago, that's the most concentrated, or one of the most concentrated areas of air traffic in the country. And if you shrink that down, the area that has the most compact traffic flow is the New York City area. It's extremely complicated. And although Atlanta and Chicago, they tend to alternate one year to the next on, the busiest airport in the country. And, it's been Atlanta for quite a while. And I think Chicago beat them one year, but they're always, when you look at one airport, they're the busiest. But if you look at the 4 airports in New York, so you look at JFK, LaGuardia, Newark, and Teterboro, which is a GA airport, big GA airport. Those 4 together actually have more operations per day than Atlanta by itself or Chicago by itself. And their area of operation is actually a lot smaller. So you got airplanes coming into 4 different airports. It's an extremely complicated area to manage with airplanes coming over other ones that are going under another one. In fact, there is if they have strong southeast winds and they have very low ceilings, IFR ceilings, so they're below 500 feet, it's called the Southeast Plan. And the only way they can operate the airports is they have to completely shut down Teterboro Airport. Nobody can fly in or out of Teterboro because then they'll keep Newark and LaGuardia and JFK running. So the commercial airlines are happy about that, or somewhat happy. Yeah. But all your 1%ers that are flying into Teterboro and flying out, and all the GA people, they don't like that because their airport gets shut down. But New York is definitely the most congested. You can have one thunderstorm, and basically if you take a thunderstorm and you place it right over the Pocono Mountains in northeast Pennsylvania, that one thunderstorm, which is 20 or 30 miles across, can cause more havoc for New York City compared to a squall line that extends from Minneapolis all the way down to Denver. It could be 500 to 1,000 miles long, will not cause as much problems as one big thunderstorm cell right up close to New York.
How do you deal with October mornings and April mornings, which are notorious for fog? And I know that just must be a bear for airport operations.
Yeah, I always wondered why some of these airports are put next to bodies of water in the low areas. I mean, you want to talk about fog? It's San Francisco. You've got marine stratus there. It's in June. They call it the June gloom. Yeah, it's the marine stratus is in there almost every morning. In fact, San Francisco is the most delayed airport in the NAS. And if you want to fly to San Francisco, I would highly recommend that you get the first flight out in the morning for wherever you're going from to San Francisco, because you have a pretty high likelihood you're going to get a delay if you wait till later in the day. Oh. But yeah, any airport that's in a river valley, and a lot of them are, or on a coastal area, which a lot of them are, it's foggy. Boston, the other day, we had issues with Boston last week, 2 or 3 days in a row, where we had a light northeast wind and you got that cold water and the fog would roll in. It would only be 4 or 5 miles inland. It would just sit there and oscillate. And then finally, when it heats up, it burns off and then backs out over the water. But it just comes in and out, in and out. Very, very difficult on the coast, especially the West Coast, because we just don't have a lot of observations off the coast. We do have real good satellite with the new GOES satellite data, the high resolution data. We actually have a piece of software that we take the GOES data, and then we look at the 1 hour model runs from the RAP models, and they combine that with the surface observations, and they come up with a probability of IFR, MVFR conditions. And this works out really good. I've had some really good luck on tracking and showing up when the fog's going to show up, when it's not going to show up, and things like that, and when it's going to clear out.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, I was
Go ahead.
I was on the air. I'm sorry, John. I was on Channel 4 in Dallas doing the 6 o'clock news, August 2nd, 1985. Routine pop-up storms.
Yeah.
And during the 6 o'clock news, you could tell something big was going on back in the newsroom. And the bottom line is that was the evening of the L-1011 crash at DFW Airport.
Right.
How do you handle these air mass thunderstorms for the southern places, Dallas, Fort Worth, Nashville, Atlanta? What do? You can't forecast those things 12 hours in advance.
No, you can't. And you just let people know that, in your forecast, you let them know that they're going to be pop-ups. And like today, again, with Dallas and with Denver, I was watching them very closely because we could see the outflow boundaries moving all over the place. And Denver is just notorious for microbursts and outflow boundaries with the high base thunderstorms. I mean, it's horrible. And their controllers and their center weather service meteorologists are watching this stuff all the time. They've got sensors all around the airport. Many of these big airports now have sensors all around the airport, so they can tell when the wind shifts are reaching certain parts of the airport, and they'll just shut things down. They won't allow anything to land. And if it gets bad enough, what they can do here at the command center is they can put in what's called a ground stop. And if we know well ahead of time that we see like a squall line that's coming into like Dallas, and we know it's going to be there in 1 hour, what they can do is they can put a ground stop in for all the aircraft that is 1 to 2 hours out. And what that does, it keeps all those aircraft on the ground. We don't put them in the air, so they're not getting to the Dallas area about the time the squall line's going to move through. And if that happened, then they would have to go ahead and start holding, and they'd be spinning out there around. And at some point, they're going to say, hey, I've got so much fuel left. And before they run out of fuel, if they can't get to Dallas, then what they have to do is they have to divert, and they have to go to another airport to land, to refuel, and then come back to Dallas at a later time. Divert is probably the worst thing that they can do for the airline industry. It costs them about $8,000 to $10,000 for every divert that they have.
No.
Hey, Mike, how would you describe the relationship between the National Weather Service and the Federal Aviation Agency? How is that relationship?
Oh, it's really strong. I don't know how it was before, but it's gotten really, really strong. And I really think it's what we've done here at the command center. It's a lot of high profile stuff that we've been doing here. And we've been working with people all the way up to the top. We do briefings for the high level FAA managers downtown, the CEOs of the FAA, the people that are really leading that. We talk to them quite often, especially if we're going to have a big weather day. We will make sure that they get the information downtown, and then all that information gets out to everyone. So there's a lot of communication and back and forth, and I think the openness in the communication has really built the relationship very strong between the Weather Service and the FAA.
Hey, Mike, just from your other weather experience in other forecast locations, what would you say is the event that made the most impression on you, the one that kind of sticks out in your mind from a forecast standpoint?
Oh, boy. Let's see. There were many. Probably had to do with heavy rain. I mean, even though I grew up in Oklahoma and I saw a lot of severe weather out there, I don't know, something turned me on to heavy rain, mid part of my career, and just forecasting, some incredible rainfall amounts for some of the hurricanes, or even weak systems that are not even tropical storms. There was one, I can't remember, it went into Houston. It was probably about 20 years ago. It barely made tropical storm conditions, but and I put out a forecast. There was not much of the forecast, and I came in the morning and I changed the forecast, and I put in excess of 5 inches of rain, which was our excessive rainfall top threshold at the time.
Oh, right.
And it moved in and kind of hung around the east side of Houston. I think there was like 36 inches of rain or something like that.
Tropical Storm Allison.
Yeah. Allison, yeah, it was Allison. And then Allison just kind of danced along the whole Gulf Coast, and then actually came up the East Coast. And there were pockets of heavy rain all along the track. I think that was like 12 or 13 days that it was a slow moving, very marginal low end tropical storm. So that was probably one of the events that was really kind of stuck with me. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Mike, you've seen some tremendous advances in technology. You were just talking about the high-res GOES imagery. I was doing the same thing over the weekend, just looking at the outflow boundaries. In fact, the Bay Breeze coming off the Chesapeake Bay that was generated, right. The resolution of that instrument is absolutely phenomenal. So I'm curious, where do you think the future of aviation forecasting is going? What do we need in terms of technology?
Well, I think we need, I'm not sure if we need higher resolution. We've got some really good resolution stuff right now. The models and the satellite, I think it comes down to the initialization and the data that's going in to initialize it, because you can look at the HER model or the RAP, or you look, we have a multitude. NSSL's got models that they run. SBC has, models. You got the HREF model. You got all these models,
right.
And you look at them, and they're all coming up with different solutions. And especially in the summertime, it's really, really difficult to say, okay, this one model is better than this one over here for this reason or whatever. And trying to pick one model on any particular day is really, really tough. So I think what we're doing now is we're able to put together these high resolution models into the ensemble forecasts. And I like the probabilities. I use those quite a bit. I know the HREF probabilities. I use those a lot. I'm trying to pinpoint the area where the really concentrated areas of thunderstorms are going to be at. We know we're going to have pop-ups, but to figure out where the real concentrated areas are going to be, that way we can keep, those are the stay away zones. Those are the areas where we really don't want the aircraft flying, because that's where people can get in trouble, even if they're close to them. How many times do you hear about an aircraft hitting turbulence? And then you find out, well, they flew just next to a thunderstorm, and they probably got caught in the anvil or something. And, you got to stay away from these things, especially these massive thunderstorms. But I think ensemble forecasting is really where it's at, and trying to really pinpoint and focus on the really big event stuff.
It seems almost archaic now to use a deterministic forecast, a model to come up with a forecast. How did we live before ensembles?
I don't know. I don't know. I know, and you still have people picking one model over the next and everything, and good luck. I say, trying to pick one or the other. You're going to be right some of the times, but I think you're going to be wrong more than you're not going to be right, because you get these just widely varying solutions, and especially with these high resolution models. You get a thunderstorm, it puts out an outflow, it blows up other storms on that outflow, and then they get outflow, and it just kind of feeds along. So it's very difficult on picking one model over another.
One more question I've got, Mike, and it is maybe a little bit outside your expertise, but I'm curious on your opinion, and that is, you mentioned how many aircraft are in the sky on any given day. Any of us that fly, I use Flight Aware all the time because I like to see where the aircraft are. Now, where is my aircraft coming from? In fact, it's one of the reasons why I look at it.
Right.
How are we doing in terms of approaching the carrying capacity? And how is weather really going to determine what the carrying capacity is?
Well, it's interesting. I know you sent me that question earlier, so I did some research today. And so I was ready for this one. So, and I looked at, I actually went pre 9/11, because a lot of people think that the traffic dropped off after 9/11, but it really didn't. When you look at traffic every year and you go back to the early 2000s, it peaked back in 2004 and 5, about 18.5 million passengers per year for 2004 and 5. And then it dropped off a little bit, but it's amazing that in 2008, after the recession, it dropped back to 15 to 16 million passengers a year. So we lost about 2 to 3 million passengers a year. So that really put a dent in the commercial, in the airline industry, and the money, the ability to make money. And last year, 2018, we're still only back to 16 million passengers. last year. So we still haven't recovered from that 2008 recession on the number of passengers that are flying. Now, I think most people, when they fly today, they would probably say, really, every flight is full.
Yeah, right.
But what's happened over the last 25 years is we've lost a lot of airlines. TWA, Braniff, Continental, American, not American, but US Air. These airlines have either gone out of business or been swallowed up by other airlines. It used to be you could fly all these little legs all over the place, and the federal government subsidized a lot of those. Now you're flying from small airports. So John, you're up in Lancaster. So flying out of Lancaster is probably very expensive for you since you don't have a major hub. It's probably cheaper for you to drive to Philadelphia and fly out of Philadelphia than fly out of Lancaster.
Yeah, there's maybe one flight a day or two, and
Right.
I can fly to BWI for $50, and that's about it.
But all these, it used to be there was a lot of flights and a lot of little flights going all over the place.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of little airplanes for these small airports. But now you've got, just these major hubs. Basically, the smallest passenger aircraft out there, that the airlines are using are these CRJs.
Yes.
CRJ 7s and 9s. Yeah.
Right.
Those are about the smallest. And you can't get on one and without seeing a full aircraft. I mean, they're almost all full. So they're packing them in there. So
a lot of that was forecast some years ago, though, because was the rise of the internet and video and conferencing, because it's just easier and so much cheaper to virtually meet face to face with people. There's still oftentimes nothing like going on a business trip and meeting somebody in person, but I think a large chunk of that came out of the business travel side.
Right.
So here's the next question, Mike, because a lot of young people have a keen interest in aviation and meteorology. If somebody wants to kind of take your path and work ultimately at your facility, what's some advice maybe for a student that's got a meteorology major now in college?
Well, if you got just a meteorology major in college, you're going to have a tough time, I think, finding a job anywhere. You've got to have a multiple disciplines. I mean, I graduated back in 1983. Back then, all you needed was a bachelor's degree. Nowadays, you've got to have, something else. And we do see meteorologists coming out and trained and, with strong aviation backgrounds, strong backgrounds in computer science, which is very important. Public speaking, decision support, being able to provide information. I think, and that's where my job is, really decision support. I'm providing information to the FAA that they can directly use to improve their operations. Anybody coming out of school right now has got to be, have more than just meteorology as their background. And there are several schools that have a lot of aviation. They teach a lot of aviation, but off the top of my head, I'm not really sure. I'm not very knowledgeable about that. Now, the airlines do hire quite a few meteorologists. We do work the convective forecast product that we put out. When we put that together every 2 hours, we get in a room with the CWSU meteorologist, ourselves, the AWC meteorologist who leads the collaboration, and then we have the meteorologists from the airlines. We have Delta is in there. Meteorologists supporting United and American are in there. Southwest is in there. FedEx is in there. JetBlue is in there. And we're all talking with them. So we're working with, it's the public sector and it's the private sector working together on this convective forecast. And everyone has ownership of this. So it's a pretty neat process when we're all working together on this.
How do you collaborate? Is that via a chat session, digital, or phone call? How does that work?
Yeah, so the AWC forecaster provides everyone a 2, 4, 6, and 8 hour panel. It's a chat software, and I can't remember the name of it. and everyone just dials in, you log in, and then we can actually, with our mouse, we can draw on each of the products and draw what we think, the convection should look like for that period. And then we discuss it back and forth. We input our meteorological, reasoning, why we want to do this or that. Maybe we want to take something out, or maybe we want to add something. And it goes on for about 30 minutes, and there can be, 20 people in there at some time. sometimes things get a little bit dicey, you know, and stuff like that. But most times everything moves on pretty good. But it is a collaborated product, and everyone knows that. And then it comes out as one product we've all looked at, we've all got ownership on.
And I always have to ask this question: what's the biggest forecast mistake or bust that you've dealt with in your career there?
Oh, I have to go back to the blizzard of, it was the 2000, I think, and up the East Coast. I was working the midnight shift, and all the models had this real strong upper system dropping into Georgia and then just sweeping everything off the East Coast. The low was well off the East Coast, and everyone had it going off the East Coast. Nobody had anything. And
except Dr. John, he got it right.
Yeah. And I think this was like a week or 2 weeks after the new director of the Weather Service had this proclamation about the No Surprise Weather Service. So I don't know if you remember that, but so I'm on the midnight shift. Everything's going to be offshore. I wake up in the afternoon, and there's winter storm warnings up and down the coast from Raleigh all the way up.
Yeah, Raleigh got 20 inches, right? This is the big one for Raleigh.
Yeah, this was a 2000 storm.
Yeah, I remember.
I mean, and there was actually the models misinterpreted the jet and the strength of the jet. I can't remember if there was a missing piece, a missing RAOB, upper air data that was missing at that time or something like that. But it dug in and it came up the coast, and you know, from Raleigh up to DC was basically 15 to 24 inches of snow. I mean, the warnings went out, you know, like 12 hours or so ahead, but you know, that was you know, if that was today, that would be a huge bust, because you know, we can see things out pretty far right now. But I would say that would be probably my biggest bust, was missing that one.
And finally, do you fly? Do you have a pilot's license, Mike?
No, I don't. No, the only thing I fly is commercial. That's the only thing. Yeah, I keep my feet on the ground. Love to fish. I'm in my boat all the time.
Keep your feet on the ground. So, but I guess you do interact. You talk with a lot of pilots, obviously, in your line of work.
Yeah, my next door neighbor, he's a private pilot. I know several of the people here are private pilots. So I interact with them quite a few times. One of my guys I fish with, he's a pilot for JetBlue. So yeah, I interact with quite a few pilots.
Awesome. Well, if you could hang with us here, Mike, we got to take a quick break here for Tony Rice and the Astronomy Report. We're going to come back with the weather roundup. We'll do picks of the week. Aubrey's probably got a whole bunch of email and much more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your Astronomy Outlook.
A total solar eclipse will pass through South America on Tuesday, July 2nd. The path of totality begins over the southern Pacific Ocean before traversing parts of Chile and Argentina. A partial solar eclipse will be visible in portions of Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Paraguay, Uruguay, and parts of Brazil, Colombia, Panama, and Venezuela. If you don't find yourself in South America, you can still experience the eclipse online. San Francisco's Exploratorium Science Museum is again sending crews into the path of totality to live stream back commentary. Live telescopic views begin at 2:23 p.m. Central, or 3:23 p.m. Eastern, 12:23 Pacific, and commentary begins at 3 p.m. Central. This will be available on their website, exploratorium.edu, on their app, or you can watch on NASA TV. Alternatively, the European Southern Observatories just happen to have some really big telescopes down there. The dry air and high altitude of the Atacama Desert makes for some really good observing, and a few of them are in the path of the eclipse. You can watch a live feed on the ESO's YouTube channel beginning at 2:15 Central, 3:15 Eastern, or 12:15 Pacific. That's your Astronomy Outlook. Check alabamawx.com for links, or my Twitter account, @RTPHokey, for more spacey stuff like this.
When the weather ball is red, warmer weather is ahead. When the weather ball is white, colder weather is in sight. When the weather ball is green, no change in the weather is foreseen. When colors blink, by night or day, precipitation's on the way.
Doing the show here on July 1st, 2019. Time to talk weather across the country. Chris, what's going on in your neck of the woods?
Well, it's been hot and sticky except for today. We had a cold front back down through here last night, or actually this afternoon. We had still about 90-degree temperatures here, but dew points were down around 60, so it was a little more bearable than it's been the last few days.
Okay, that's not too bad. And down here in the deep south, look, down here in late June, July, August, early September, the greatest struggle at saying the same thing on television every night. Really, I mean, how many ways can you say this? Hot, humid, and a storm in spots in the afternoon. And I can't tell you tonight where the storms will be tomorrow afternoon. Nobody knows. And that's just kind of the way it is. So we're in that. The only thing that can break it really down here, it's tropical. And the Atlantic basin stays quiet. But we've got a hurricane, Dr. John, out in the Eastern Pacific. What is this thing called? Barbara?
Oh, you got me, James. I'm asleep at the wheel on that one.
Yeah,
well, you're right.
It is Barbara. Yeah, Hurricane Barbara.
You become our tropical expert, John.
You're right. It's 85 miles per hour sustained, 75 knots, 983 millibars moving to the west.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to kind of take the route in the general direction of Hawaii, but I'm not so sure it will hold together. We'll see. Who's closest out there? Kevin, you're the closest.
I'll fly out there with Michael's permission and see if it's okay.
So, Kev, what's happening in Texas? Every time I think of Wichita Falls, Texas, I think of the summer of 1980, which was your worst heat out there.
Yeah, we're still in that string. You know, I still do the almanac on some of the shows, and it's just every day now. It was 1980, 100 and something teen, and 1980. I think it was Thursday or Friday last week was the anniversary of the hottest for Wichita Falls, 117 back in 1980. But yeah, it was a long string of well over 100 or even 110. The hottest in Texas is tied is Seymour, Texas, and Monahans, Texas. I think I've told the story before, but Seymour is just down the road from me. It's in my market, and I went and did a speech there, and they give out T-shirts, and on the back of it, they mark on the front, on the chest part, it says, hottest temperature 120 degrees, but in big bold letters on the back of the T-shirt, it says, "We're hotter than you are."
That's awesome.
It's pretty funny. Yeah, we're quiet. We're kind of on the eastern. There's a ridge from us to the west, and there's a little weakness in that ridge. So pop-up storms in Dallas today, and a couple could wander in our area tomorrow.
Yep. So Dr. John, what's happening in Lancaster, Pennsylvania?
Well, we've had 2 really nice days. That front that Chris was talking about, that came through here on Saturday. And my pick of the week actually has something to do with that storm system. But boy, the last 2 days have been really nice. In fact, this morning, I always like to look at, if I'm looking for cool weather, I look up at Bradford, the airport up in Bradford, Pennsylvania, which is up in the northwest. There were 44 this morning.
Ooh.
Brisk,
wow.
Right? Well, our dew point actually dropped to 52 this morning. So we've had a couple of really nice days, but July weather is right on the doorstep. So the rest of the week will feature higher humidity, near 90 degrees, and the old pop-up thunderstorms.
Yep. So let's see. I guess Michael and Aubrey, you two guys are kind of in the same general vicinity. Michael, how's your weather doing there?
It's beautiful. I could take 90s and 75 dew points all year long.
Wow.
It's great. Yeah. Yeah, it's been the last couple of days a little bit drier with that front coming through. So, yeah, I'm just west of D.C. about 40 or 50 miles. So I'm about halfway between Chris and John. But, yeah, looking for a little more thunderstorms over the next few days. It seems like most of them do go through Pennsylvania this summer, though.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, with northwesterly flow.
I know. Ridiculous. I haven't had a drop of rain at my house in over a week, and we've had all these thunderstorms, and I've missed every one of them. But that's why they call them scattered thunderstorms.
Mike, I invite you to come on up here and help me power wash the green off my home.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I could use it's been a week since we've had any significant rain at my house. We've missed so many thunderstorms.
I think I missed a week of rain about 2 years ago.
Yeah. Well, our rain started, what is a year ago, May is when it
Yeah.
really started here in the East, and it really hasn't quit. I mean, we're way ahead of normal, from what we've had.
So, Aubrey, what do you got there? It looks like a lightning shot there.
So I was in Baltimore on Saturday, and boy, did I get lucky. I have a Google Pixel phone, and I just did the automated, where you just hold the shutter down, and there was amazing lightning, just that was constant. And so I was going to see what I could get. And I got some awesome lightning shots from the top floor of our hotel room. And I just sat and watched this storm, and I moved from window to window because we were on the corner. And so I was able to watch this for a couple hours, and it was just one of the best lightning shows because I'm always stuck in a studio.
I know. It's so much fun to actually go and watch the weather, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, it was wonderful. So, yeah, I got some lightning shots from Baltimore and got to enjoy a lightning storm. And unfortunately, overnight, a couple of our West Virginia counties, 2 of our counties, and then a couple other counties just west of us, did get some serious flash flooding overnight. We even had a flash flood emergency in one of our counties where 30 homes had to be evacuated. About 3 to 5, even 6 inches of rain in about 6 hours from some training thunderstorms with that front that came through, and the Potomac just skyrocketed. And I've been tweeting out some pictures and some video. Thankfully, I don't believe anyone was injured or killed, at least not from what we can tell right now, which is amazing because there's a lot of campgrounds, especially in the Seneca Rocks area in Pendleton County. A lot of people had to be evacuated and rescued from there. So even with a lot of campgrounds in this area, it's amazing no one was killed up there. So that's what a lot of people are going to be cleaning up with. And now I'm just concerned with more storms this week because now we have an extremely vulnerable area.
Yep. So, Aubrey, do you have time to read an email or two by chance since you're here?
Sure.
Let's just roll it. We're just going to roll it because you're here, and I bet you we've got some email to read.
Letters. We get letters. We get stacks and stacks of letters.
I think I've got a couple.
I saw one just come in a minute ago.
Yeah, I confirmed. We've got a couple. This one is from David Fix from Fayetteville, North Carolina. Love the show. Did anyone catch the weather delay during the NASCAR race at Chicagoland Speedway Sunday? They started the race with an impending thunderstorm. If I remember looking at someone's tweet, it looked more than a thunderstorm. It looked like a line. But then they had to stop the race 12 laps and evacuate the stands and the race teams. And the footage of the storm hitting the track was frightening.
What happened with that? It looked like the village idiot could have figured out that we're going to have some problems here. Were they just hoping that the thing would dissipate? I mean, who's a NASCAR guy on here? Anybody with a NASCAR fan here?
Well, I'm a bit of a gearhead at times.
Brian Newdorf is NASCAR weatherman on Twitter.
Yeah.
He would probably have comment on that. I could ask him, but yeah, I saw 1 or 2 quick things from him that they probably should not have started that, I think.
Now, when I was in Baltimore, we had severe storms just to the northwest, and I was watching those come in, and I was expecting the game to be delayed. Of course, now realizing MLB, they want to get you into the stadium, and then they'll call the delay.
Yes.
So they got everyone into the stadium, and we did the anthem, and then they said, "Oh, by the way, we're going to be delayed now because of rain." And I was like, "Yes, called it." And we were delayed about an hour and 10 minutes, and the strongest scooted around us, but there were severe storms in the area. There was lightning in the area. It was a very good call by MLB and the Orioles and whoever made the call. So kudos to them. On my side, from what I saw at the Orioles game, it was a great call on that sports side.
Does the home plate umpire still make the decision on weather delays at Major League Baseball games?
That I don't know.
I think he communicates with New York, and then he'll make the final decision.
Okay, because we need to get Kevin Clostel back on the show sometime and talk events, weather included. He would know about this NASCAR thing and all the stuff we're talking about, Major League Baseball. But I think generally speaking, we're moving in the right direction, but still there's some issues like that NASCAR thing. That was just I mean, Twitter was lighting up. Why are they starting this race when you got this massive squall line, at 10 miles out? That just didn't make any sense. But anyway, all right. Any other emails, Aubrey?
There's one. I didn't look at this too closely, but Devin from Memphis sent this one in. Have you heard of this? The website Survivor Library has older books to keep a post. Technology Society Thriving in case of the internet and other technologies crash. We will still have access to how to do things like farming, hunting, medicine, and other skills without the aid of high tech. And there's a section on meteorology.
So we forget how to forecast.
Yeah. When the 3 kilometer NAM doesn't come in, what do?
It's actually not letting me open it up. So I don't know if anyone else got it, but Devin, resend it to me if you still have it. And he said, also, I was doing FEMA training in Alabama about 2 months ago and heard from many people, be sure to check James Spann tonight for the weather tomorrow. So obviously a lot of people preaching on about James Spann. So we'll get to more email over the next couple weeks. We'll try to get through this. Email at weatherbrains.com. Love to hear from you.
All right. Awesome. Well, let's do picks of the week. This is where we go around the horn here and everybody shares something that is weather related. And since Kevin brought it up, I'll do the book is my pick, the James Spann book.com. So Dr. John, what's your pick of the week?
Well, since we're talking about events, and this week I'm actually providing forecast support for the 4th of July celebration in Allentown, Pennsylvania. So I'm acutely aware of what the weather's going to be like this week. My pick has to do with Saturday's weather. And there was I think we were in a slight risk. SPC had put us in a slight risk. And there was some late afternoon thunderstorms that developed rapidly. The key with these storms was really, at least as they moved through central PA, was not the vigorous nature of the convection. It turned out to be the gust front, which was ahead of these storms. And it blew through my house here at about 50 miles per hour. And everything's just flying up the road and through the backyards. Well, there was a festival taking place west of Harrisburg at the time. And I don't know what kind of weather support they had, but the video that's associated with my pick of the week is rather telling. There is strong gust front activity moving through this festival with thousands of people. It doesn't sound like there was any warning put out. There were injuries, fortunately not life-threatening, but this was one of those events again where our awareness is heightened for providing the kind of on-site meteorological support which is absolutely essential when you've got thousands of people in place. So that's my pick of the week.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks, John. Kev, what's your pick?
I have a video that I think probably everybody's seen by now. Did you all see this one? It's black and white. It's from a marina in Kentucky where the marina roof was taken apart by a tornado or a gust front. It's it's damaged video like we've all seen. But the reason I showed it on TV and discussed it, there's a long, well, I shouldn't say long. I think it's a 55 second video. But the point in bringing it up is you see in the foreground is this family has come to this dock in the marina with their pontoon boat, and the wind is clearly picking up, and they are trying to get themselves set with regard to the boat. There's a canopy on the boat, and they've got things in the boat, and things start blowing around on the dock. And then behind them, the marina roof, which appears to be corrugated metal, just comes apart and goes into the water. And had that dock been, 100 yards longer, none of those people would have survived that. No question. They all would have been shredded. But the point for me to show it is to remind people like us who are in, the business of communicating this is these people saw something coming. They felt the wind pick up, but then in a matter of seconds, it went really bad to the point where they were never going to control it. You cannot hold the canopy of a pontoon boat down against a stiff wind. You don't need to worry about the wagon that you're trying to get out of the boat and take down the dock. You need to get out of the way. And that was sort of my message, is that things can go down or go south or deeply dangerous very, 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 very quickly. And not to play with that was kind of my point. So it's an interesting video.
Wow. Yeah, no kidding. Love to see that. All right, Aubrey, what you got? What's your pick this week?
Mine is a tweet, and I forget who it's from, but it's a Blackwater Falls, which is in the Canaan Valley. And at Blackwater Falls State Park in West Virginia, which is a beautiful, beautiful waterfalls. And it is roaring, absolutely roaring after those thunderstorms on Saturday night.
Awesome. All right, Chris, we've stalled for you, so give you time to think about it. So what you got for us this week?
Well, mine is it's from National Geographic. I put the link in the chat there. It's the weather station weather data from the top of Mount Everest. And it provides wind, pressure, humidity, temperature, and several locations, including the top, all the way down to base camp. So that's my pick.
Awesome. And again, all these links will be up on the website, weatherbrains.com. And Mike, I see you got one in the chat room. Tell us about it.
Well, did anybody see that tornado up in South Dakota yesterday or the day before? That was the most photogenic tornado I think I've ever seen. And the beauty of the whole video was there was nothing, no sound at all. I mean, he had you could just hear kind of like birds every once in a while in the background and everything. It was so serene and beautiful. That was really, really nice.
It almost looked like, some kind of CGI thing from a movie.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the striations up at the cloud base and just wrapping around. I mean, it's unbelievable.
I've seen several versions, several videos of the thing, but the one that the lady took from Facebook, to me, was the best one, which is the one I think you're talking about. It was just tremendous. And apparently it just sat there and didn't move. And it was down for, tens of minutes, I think.
Right.
I'm not seeing it on the link you sent, Mike.
But I'm hearing some really nice chimes right now.
That would be my clock.
Show title.
Let's see. Yeah. Actually, is that? Anyway, we'll figure out the right link to that. Kevin, how are you and Zuckerberg getting along these days?
I don't want to go off on that now. The more things I hear, the more amazing it gets. I'll mention that, there's that new podcast. I mentioned it a week or two ago. Your Undivided Attention, it's called. And I'm in the middle of their latest episode. It's a woman who went to work for Facebook. She's a former CIA agent, of all things. And they're interviewing her, and the lack of understanding about what they've done and what they've built and how they think they're going to get out of the problems they caused is pretty stunning. So that's all I'll say for now.
And I don't know, go down this rat hole, but I guess you saw the story about these people that had to watch these horrible videos, just horrible videos.
Yep.
And they were in charge of, deleting them or whatever. And I think one died and others have come out of there with just all kind of issues. And
that guy,
they're not,
go ahead.
They're not Facebook employees. They're contractors, I understand it.
Right. Yeah. The reporter's name is Casey Newton, and that's the second in a series that he has done. You can find him at The Verge. His newsletter is called The Intercept or Interceptor, but Casey Newton is his name. I actually, the story you're talking about, I actually couldn't read. I stopped and I skimmed parts of it, but I've heard him in interviews now and done a little side reading on it. And it's, there's a lot of bad stuff going on, but one day someone will figure it out.
And to me, the scary stuff is that what these people are doing is just shining a light on society. I mean, we've got some issues here, but let's not end in the downer.
I might argue that just they are at some level, but they're also enabling and fanning that flame. Because as we all observe, let's take it back to weather. We all observe, like in Aubrey's case, a handful of people will get angry at you for cutting into programming, and it's easier than ever to vent your frustration in our direction or anybody's direction right now. But I think that is part of the problem. It's easier than ever to vent your opinion or your anger or your frustration. Oh, please don't show that. It's really a big problem. Don't tell what that is, because I'll get fired.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Kevin. I was trying to bring a little levity to the situation.
I emailed that to you guys. It's don't.
Hey, Mike, do you ever get any negative social media feedback on your work at the control center there?
Not on social media. We actually don't have a social media presence here.
Can I come work there?
So, but
that's a show title.
When we mess up a forecast, we hear directly from all the controllers. I can tell you that they don't hold back. If you're wrong, you're going to know it real quick. So it's direct, but we learn from it and then we move on, and hopefully we do better in the future.
And I say all the time, I need constructive criticism.
Right.
And there's a line here between good constructive criticism that will help me get better and just pure hate and vitriol and all this horrible stuff that you hear. I mean, and I think you pretty much know when people cross that line. And I've had some very good negative feedback that I need, but most of the time it's the other way. So anyway, Chris, how can people get in touch with you if they need to find you on the social media or whatever? Plug away.
I'm on Twitter as Chris VAWX, Victor Alpha WX, and you can follow the ChaserCon account at mchasercon for that as well. And then the ChaserCon also has a Facebook page for Mid-Atlantic ChaserCon.
And one more time, give us the dates and how much and how do you register?
The registration site is one string, midatlanticchasercon.com. The tickets are available now, and the event is Saturday, October 26th, and the early bird tickets are on sale right now for $20.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like a great event. And Mike, thanks a lot for being on the show this week. I appreciate it. It's been a great show. We've learned a lot about aviation weather, and looking at the clock here, we have to put a bow on this one here because I've got some television to do. If you want to get in touch with us, our email address is email@weatherbrains.com. Our social media accounts on the same website, the show notes, weatherbrains.com. We're typically here Monday nights, 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. Many people watch us at live.bigbrainsmedia.com. So on behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thank you for listening. Have a great week and God bless. Thanks, everybody.
Great.
Thanks,
Thank Chris.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. It's great. We enjoyed it.